Okay. Alrighty, mainnet check-in. I see that we're trying to cut a release. I saw the change log that Aaron sent earlier. Is that gonna happen today, do you think? Or like what's still blocking us for this?
I think we need Ludo's PR. I don't think we can ship a release without the RBF fixes in.
Okay,
I do think that the changelog PR can be that's not in it of itself cutting a release. That's just merging the changelog into develop.
yeah. And we can always update it later, like when Ludo's PR merges.
Yeah, we'd have to.
Yeah. I noticed something over the weekend on mainnet. I just wanted to bring to your attention. We got somebody who's mining 45% of the blocks for the past day. Not sure how you want to handle this. I was thinking maybe I could go ask the foundation if we could spin our miner back up and try to counterbalance it, but it's going to be real embarrassing if he gets 50%.
Yeah, I think we should spin the foundation miner back up, especially now that And for this particular miner, Jude, like, is it is there something specific about how this miner is configured that is advantageous, or we just don't have enough active miners?
I think we just don't have enough active miners.
Okay.
Like we have two miners that have 80% of the mining power. Like they produce 80% of the blocks in the canonical chain. And there's like a smattering of smaller miners making up the other 20%.
Okay.
Something to think about.
Yeah.
Maybe that should be like a foundation OKR. Like how do we attract more miners?
I mean, the question isn't so much attracting, more miners. It's like more mining power, right? This 45% miner is also doing 45% of the block commits, right? Like they're committing a ton of Bitcoin.
Yes, they are. So yeah, like I guess that's a question that you just need to run by Brittany, just to make sure that if we do try to match this guy's mining power, like that's a good use of our funds.
Yeah, sounds good.
Do you want to talk a bit about the transaction propagation on mainnet? How's that been holding up this week?
I don't think we've uncovered any new issues, whether related to mempool or transaction propagation. And then, of course, once we have the new release and the fix for 2389 can be absorbed or deployed by more people, we'll kind of see how it's performing. I did put a message on the mining channel for people to consider lowering their wait for microblocks time to 45 seconds. I don't know if anyone has actually done that, but.
Do we have any evidence that people have picked up the mempool PR that Aaron merged?
I don't know. I know that people had been looking at the branch. Maybe some enterprising folks would build from source, but I don't know for sure if anyone has already deployed it.
Okay, we could probably figure that out if we just looked at blocks and saw if we have transactions with no, I'm sorry. I thought for a second Aaron's PR, I made it so that you could have nonce chains, but I guess that's something that's future work. Never mind.
Yeah, I mean, I think it still is possible to have nonce chains so long as the chains were all accepted at the same block.
That's true.
I think one way to figure this out would just be like to look at the V1 info for nodes and see, because like that version string includes the commit hash.
That is true. We can do that.
So yeah, if we're interested in figuring out what the network is running, it would be a pretty simple walk script from basically the seed node neighbors.
Yeah, but knowing miners, there might be mining behind a NAT. So it'd be incomplete view of the network. Any other mainnet issues you want to talk about? I know there's been some calls For a stacking dashboard, is that a mainnet concern? Is that like something we're adding to the V2 POX endpoint? Is there an issue?
I think there's an issue open for this. I don't know how like pressing and enormous of a concern this is. It also falls into like a category of issues where you don't need miner uptake to reap the benefits. Like whoever's consuming the API can run a.
Yeah, I think we have a bunch of issues open around, exposing more information from a node and adding more like richer information on the Explorer. And to Aaron's point, I think those things we can probably address just by making changes to the nodes that service the API if you wanted to.
Alrighty. So outside of our scope.
Yeah. As the other thing I would add is that looking over the past week, we've seen like a rise in the number of block commits committing to like extremely old blocks. So like 500 blocks behind the chain tip, which I think is just caused by nodes that are booting up.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. But wasn't that fixed recently? That's in develop right now, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we should when we cut a release, we should hope to see that go away.
Yeah.
Or at least like diminish. Yeah, that was a pernicious problem we had earlier. Cool. Anything else? I just want to also say congratulations to everyone. POX activated this week and POX payouts are happening. So awesome. That's great to see. Yeah,
big milestone. I think one thing we can talk through this when we're discussing or going through the board as well. I do see a lot of back and forth happening on Ludo's PR. So I would like to take some time today if there is kind of any like big issues in how we want to approach that PR. I know like this is almost kind of the second iteration of how we are trying to approach these fee issues. There was one PR maybe 2 weeks ago that we abandoned in favor of this PR. We've had a bunch of back and forth on this PR already. So I want to make sure that the group feels aligned so we can try to shortcut some of that back and forth and have a path where we're kind of clear. Once we address some small finite set of known issues, that PR will be merge ready, just to kind of speed things up a little bit.
Sure, we can do that at the end.
Okay.
All right, moving to the issue board here. So I guess review or approved. Alex, is this mergeable? Also, why does it say review or approved if we only have one round of feedback here? That's like a misconfiguration.
Sorry, which one? Which one are you looking?
This one right here, the add BNS contract references.
Oh, the contract references. Yeah, that was reviewed a while ago. I don't know if we need to get back to it. I don't know if Ludo or Aaron had a chance. I think I really need their feedback because I think Friedker so far only chimed in. It seemed to work for me. I actually generated the contract that I needed for the docs and had the markdown ready.
Okay, Aaron or Ludo, do you want to take a look at this? I can also help along with it.
Yeah, sure. I think I already approved it. Actually, I don't know what's going on with the display on GitHub, but I can approve it again. I think it required. Yeah.
Oh, I think I realized now what happened. I think Friedker added or changed up a method in there.
Oh, I see.
Remember? And then
Yeah.
I probably wanted to make another iteration on that. Let me look into this quickly myself as well.
Cool.
Okay, we'll get the green check boxes soon.
Yeah, thank you.
Speaking of Friedker, for 2358, this is the missed block commit issue. Do we want to just icebox this? Because this is consensus breaking and we can't really roll it out until we have Stacks 2.1. What do y'all think?
Yeah, I mean, I think we should just tag it as consensus breaking, and I don't know.
Pretty sure it is. But
It's definitely consensus breaking.
cannot merge
but
it.
yeah, we can't merge it.
All right. But we can merge this one here, evaluate POX anchor. I think we're just waiting for one more approval. It's still ready to go, right, Aaron? There's no future work needed.
Yeah, I don't think there's.
I'll look into it today.
Cool.
Thanks, Ludo.
I would also say it's not like it's not high priority. It's just like adding a CLI command that helps diagnose what's going on in the node. So
I know, I'm just trying to clear it out. Ludo, is this something that's still in draft status, or is it ready for review now?
So I've been iterating on this Puppet chain in the RBF PR, and the RBF PR is merging into this one.
Right.
So yeah, I can we can review it. Yeah.
All right, cool.
I'll open the PR.
Sounds good. 2347. This is the RBF PR that we're going to discuss in detail after the board, right?
No, I think that this one we can close because yeah, it's
been superseded. Superseded.
It's been superseded. Yeah.
Okay. By 2383. I can't spell.
Yeah, I've been working on this PR 2 weeks ago, and so we've been talking about it last week. So I came up with another approach, and yeah, so we can.
Sounds good.
Get rid of this one.
Alrighty. In progress. Do we have any? I opened these issues just as mining here. The node UTXOs bug, the failed to submit Bitcoin transaction. These things that are just observations I got from the foundation miner. But do we know if these are addressed in your PR, Ludo?
So my PR is not going to magically create some UTXOs if you don't have any.
No, yeah, of course not. But it does have a problem sometimes where the miner can get stuck. Yeah, believing there are none.
Yeah.
Is that something the Puppet chain helps us reproduce?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. I'll just go ahead and mention that here. Oh, I see. You've already mentioned it should be fixed in 2383, so that's awesome. I'm going to guess similar for this one here. Yep, cool. And same with this one here, I think. Yes, awesome. Look forward to closing those. Mempool collection, is this something that you've had that Needless moved at all on, Aaron, for statistics gathered for the mempool?
Yeah, so I have a script that basically just like pulls down the accept time from like a bunch of different nodes. So like you just feed it a bunch of chain states and it creates like samples based on when the transaction was accepted to the various mempools. And if you also have a node that's running txlog, it can include when the transaction was mined. This at some point, yeah, this needs to like be fed into some sort of data analysis system to produce useful information. But once I figured out that there was this mempool walking bug happening, didn't really continue looking at the metrics stuff because like that is so much dominating this. Like anytime we get a short-lived fork, which probably happens once every 20-ish blocks, basically the mempool resets.
Yeah, that's clearly a problem.
Yeah.
All right, cool. You want to share that script at some point?
Yeah, I'll share it once it's cleaned up a little bit.
Sounds good.
Can we also add some Prometheus metrics around the mempool while we're at it? So it's not just like a scripted thing.
Yeah, so I chatted with DevOps about this, and the issue is that with this, you really want to be collecting these metrics kind of like per transaction ID.
Mm-hmm.
And so a single node will never have like information about propagation of the TX ID to other nodes, or at least it doesn't currently. And so what we would need to do to collect like Prometheus metrics is like issue a Prometheus endpoint for every single TX ID, which, would be great.
Yeah. What about at the API? Because we're already doing a bunch of normalization at the API layer. So maybe that's a better spot.
Yeah, that might be possible. I think like from the API, like what the API would be able to do is generate an event for every time a new transaction is included at the API level. It could generate an event, which is like the time that the API node first found this transaction, like first saw it in the mempool, to the time it was mined. And then we could have like a Prometheus endpoint, which is just like looking at that metric.
Yeah.
So it's not broken down by transaction, but it just tells you what the like the mean and median times to confirmation are.
Yeah. Okay.
Cool. And that would be generally useful, like just so we can keep track of the health of the mempool.
Yeah.
This is 1805. I'm still working on this. I hope to have that done sometime this week. He said the last 3 weeks. 1641. Any movement on this, Pascal?
No, I thought I would rebase, but I didn't. I was in rebase hell for some of this week, and so much so that my other PR on the mining stuff, I just going to start over with something slightly simpler. I don't know how I ended up in that rebase hell. So I'm not, this one is a lot simpler, so maybe it's not going to be affected that way. I don't know how I got into that spot, except I've been working on that other PR for 3 months, but that's, so yeah, short answer, no movement on that one. Hopefully this week, but.
Sounds good. Whenever you have a new PR, feel free to close this one then. Miner keeps burning commitment in TXV without fully synced chain tip. I think this is fixed now and developed, right, Aaron?
Broadly speaking, yes.
Yeah, I think your PR fixed that.
Yeah.
Cool. Close that when that merges then. Same with this one. Insufficient fee, rejecting. I think this is actually Ludo's PR. Yeah, okay. When Ludo's PR merges, we'll go ahead and close this. Yeah, this is the UTXO chaining. I'm going to go ahead and icebox this until we're ready for Stacks 2.1. Cool. New issues. Consider adding a Schnorr verify function to Clarity. Can we do this in Clarity? Can we like implement Schnorr verify using just Clarity?
That I'm not sure, but I was thinking about a native function.
We can replace it with a native function with the cost voting.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. So yeah, on this, so yeah, if I can explain where I'm coming from. So I was looking at the TBTC paper,
Mhm.
and yeah, they've been doing a bunch of shenanigans on ECDSA for implementing a multi-party signature.
Mhm.
And yeah, I just feel like it would be yeah, I don't know. So I don't know if it's a Schnorr or a BLS. I think that Schnorr is going to. I think it's happening on Bitcoin. So maybe yeah, we can go with Schnorr. We could go with Schnorr, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't have a horse in the race. If we can make it so that we can implement this as a soft fork, though, like through a cost function upgrade, like I think that's probably the safest bet. Then we don't have to worry about. Yeah, we can just let the market, quote unquote, let the market decide.
Jude, that would mean that it would be you would have to implement it in Clarity first, right?
That's correct. But you would be able to change the cost of it through the cost voting, and then you could. We'd have a node that intercepts calls to Schnorr verify and calls a native method instead.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, this would be a fun use case or a fun test case of this. Or we can wait to 2.1, whichever happens first.
Yeah,
I'm fine with either. Okay. Mempool transactions accepted at, different forks are not considered. Aaron, this is fixed by your PR, right?
Yes.
Okay, can I go ahead and close it then? Or should
I
we
mean,
wait?
it's not released, so probably not.
Okay, I'll wait until we release. Cool. We're not addressing this in your PR, right? Evaluating transactions in nonce order. That's going to be a subsequent PR.
Yeah, that's correct.
All right, cool. Adding a memo. Reed, do you want to talk about this a bit more? A memo to the stacks transfer call?
Yeah, this came up last week. So the stacks transfer native function doesn't have a field for specifying a memo. Yeah, so this issue is just, I guess I just wanted to ask, like, is that something we would like to add? Seemed like there was some demand for it.
Well, either way, it's going to have to wait until 2.1 because
yeah.
I guess like I would try to think of a way to do this without having to break consensus. Like maybe there can be like a well-known function or something that does the stack, you know?
Right.
Like if the need is urgent, like otherwise, like sure, we can probably do this in 2.1.
Yeah. What exactly do you mean do it without, I mean, how would you do it without breaking consensus, kind of from the Clarity perspective?
So it would have to be, if you want to require every single stacks transfer operation to include a memo, even if that memo is a 0-length string. One way you could do that is you could, first of all, deploy a contract that does the stacks transfer, the raw bare stacks transfer here, and then like prints the memo as an event. And then from there, you would have to execute a soft fork that requires any subsequent stacks transfer to go through that function as opposed to doing a bare stacks transfer.
I see.
Which could be done. But again, I guess it depends on like the urgency and the degree to which miners are willing to cooperate with you on this.
Yeah. I'm not really, I don't have a good sense of what the urgency is for something like this.
But we can definitely make it happen in 2.1. Like that's going to be enough for everyone.
Right.
So you don't have to worry about it dying in soft fork hell.
Yeah.
Okay, keep that in mind. This is also, Aaron, this is the same issue, right? Not correctly walking the mempool.
Yeah.
All right, cool. I think is this done? Emitting lockup events from the Genesis block?
I think we tried and we failed and we disabled it. And I don't know what's the next approach. I think that we set on the fact that the API would be, yeah, maybe using the dump directly. I'm not sure.
Matt on the call? Okay, so we're just waiting for clarity from Matt, I guess, or from the.
Sorry, can you repeat what's going on? I wasn't
Well, I'm
listening.
just trying to figure out what the status of this issue is, emitting lockup events for the Genesis block.
I think this is something that we decided to do during the import on the API side without having to communicate this between the core node and the API. It's like too much data in a format that's hard for the API to parse in like a quick enough way. Because by default right now, this outputs stuff as like a clarity event. So it's like whatever 100,000 of those, super slow. And we already have to like import a whole bunch of stuff from the same set of V1 files. So I think we're planning to just import this directly. You know, for example, like subdomains and stuff, we're redoing that.
So I mean, I guess what I'm trying to figure out is, can we close this issue because it's not fixed? Like we're going to be doing some other mechanism like reading the dump directly, or should this remain open?
Yeah, I mean, actually, I don't know, maybe transfer it, and the title obviously would be a little bit different, but the same goal.
Okay.
Or just like, yeah, I can do it too.
Where do you want to send it? The Stacks API?
Yeah.
All right. All yours. Stacking details in V2 POX. I think we talked about this briefly earlier. And this is the issue for it. We don't have anyone assigned to this. Is this something that you need like this week, Alex?
Sorry, coming in right now. Stacking deals and PO. No, not this week. It's fairly important for, I guess, medium to long term for implementations and so on. But right now, there's no blocker for it.
Okay. So I guess we'll just get to it when we get to it. Sound good?
Yep. Yep.
Cool. Expose implemented traits via RPC. So I remember replying to Hank on this. The idea is that it'd be great to be able to list the traits that a contract implements, or list the contracts that implement a particular trait. But my comment to Hank here is I'm not sure how feasible this would be. Just because that would severely increase the cost of instantiating a contract, because you'd have to go update all those indexes. But I did point out that I don't feel confident enough to say definitively that that's true, and we'd probably have to defer to Aaron for this, since he knows it better than I do. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I haven't really read through this issue yet, so
All right.
can't form an opinion.
No rush. This is just refactoring. There's no need to really talk about it right yet. Plausibility of fetching nonces from, I think we talked about this last time. I think the answer here is we just try to make it so that we can't actually make, the problem here is that there's a race condition between when you ask for a nonce and when you use it, but that's fundamentally unsolvable. Like, that's just something you're just gonna have to learn how to deal with. I think this brings us back to where we were last week. Did I miss anything?
No, that's good. Let's switch to discussion topics.
Well, actually, real quick though, before we do that, do we want to talk a bit more about making it so the nodes can start and stop from an existing working directory? Because I know that's something that people have been asking about.
Yeah.
Is there anyone working on this right now?
So I started thinking about it last week after opening the RBF PR, but yeah, I'm gonna focus on the RBF since I have some feedbacks, and then I can go back to it. But yeah, if you have some thoughts or things that you want to share, sure.
Alrighty. I'm working in 1805 as well, so I guess this is just lower priority.
Yeah, on that note, Jude, do you have any update or details to share on 1805, kind of where you are?
Sure. So the implementation of 1805, let me find the issue here, has actually gone through a couple of passes so far, because no matter what you do, like there's going to be the possibility that whatever heuristic you apply to determine whether or not a future reward cycle has an anchor block, there exists the possibility, remote possibility, but still a possibility that your heuristic will give you a false positive or a false negative. So what I've been trying to work through also with Aaron on this is what would be the best heuristic we can use, and to what extent we can rely on that heuristic in the future. Because ideally what would happen is miners would use the heuristic and decide using just the heuristic whether or not an anchor block exists. So that way the possibility of your anchor block detection giving you the wrong answer would never materialize. Like the consequences of that would never materialize. I think we're on a good track to do this. The first approach I had for this that I'm ultimately scrapping was making it so that we could instantiate a sparse sortition DB that lives just in RAM and just processes the prepare phase sortitions. The challenge for doing that, though, is that in order to process the prepare phase sortitions, in order to deduce to what extent subsequent sortitions affirm the existence of prior anchor blocks, is that you have to decide which VRF seed to use in order to choose how those sortitions will execute. And that in turn is a very difficult problem because if you choose the wrong VRF seed, you can increase the chance that you decide there is an anchor block when there isn't, or decide that there is not an anchor block when there actually is. So I've been doing this last week is throwing all that out and making it instead so that we look at just the Bitcoin weight of block commits, both attempted block commits and successful block commits on any or all parent block commits that do not lie in the prepare phase. At least one of these will be an anchor block if there is any anchor block to be found. And if an anchor block does exist, there will be a commit chain that is at least F times W commits long. Or at least not commits long, but like has F times W confirmations, even if the confirmations themselves do not constitute a fork of that length. So that's where I'm at right now. I'm making it so that we just look at this information inside the burn chain DB instead of trying to emulate sortition processing as part of a pre-processing step when you download the block headers.
Thanks. And yeah, in terms of timeline, yeah, when you think you might have a PR out for review?
I'm really hoping this week sometime.
Speaking of timelines, this is mostly an FYI for non-PBC folks. Most people at PBC are going to be out from this coming Thursday, February 4th, until the following Monday, which is February the 8th.
What's the occasion?
Oh, just we wanted to give people a break since everyone has been working so hard for the mainnet launch, and like normally we'd have time off over the Christmas holidays, which we didn't really. So yeah, just to give everyone a break.
Sounds good. Moving on to discussion then.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead and pull up that issue here. I believe it was in progress. Sorry, I actually have it up here. So I know the bulk of the comments left on this were from me. So should I just go ahead and just talk about them specifically?
Sure.
Or should Ludo give an introduction first?
No, go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay. First, let me just say up front, I like the approach. Like, I think this is this is like on the right track to solving this problem. Most of the concerns that I have are a bit lower, like a bit, deep in the weeds. So I hope we can get them fixed pretty quickly. The first of which is, it looks like this code is trying to deal with the case where if you miss a block commit, like if another Bitcoin block gets mined, the code is trying to resend a block commit and possibly also change the structure of the block commit transaction if, for example, that commit would now fall into a prepare phase. I guess my pushback on that is I don't think that that's really the responsibility of the code at this level in the stack. Like, I think that the sortition, the tenure processing code should be responsible for generating the transaction. And then if the block commit that's in flight doesn't make it into the targeted Bitcoin block, I think this code should just give up instead of trying to regenerate a block commit with the same block hash.
Well, something needs to recover that transaction.
I agree. However, the task of creating a second block commit, I don't think falls into the Bitcoin reg test controller, that I'm trying to say, especially because creating a second block commit is a somewhat expensive task. Like, you're basically 2xing the cost that you're paying for a block, and you're guaranteeing that one of them is going to lose at least.
But one of them is already guaranteed to lose.
Correct. So you should either try to RBF your existing block commit, or you should let the node try to regenerate a wholly new stacks block and then restart the process of sending a block commit.
Isn't this trying to RBF the existing block commit?
Down here, it's generating a new block commit.
So it only tries to generate a new block commit if the UTXO that you were using for the previous block is is too low. So in this particular case, then yes, if you have some extra UTXOs that you can use, we're going to submit another block commit, but that's the only case.
Yeah, the feedback I would have there, though, is that if you're going to run into this situation where you don't have enough UTXOs to do an RBF, like that's still like a suboptimal case for the miner, though, because now you're sending 2 block commits for the same block in potentially the same Bitcoin block. I actually think both would be rejected under the consensus rules.
You submit 2 blocks, but one of them is outdated, right? Because one of them is targeting, one of them should have been included in a previous Bitcoin block. And it's not going to be the case.
So if your block commit misses its targeted Bitcoin block, then that usually means that there's a new Stacks chain tip as well, because some other commit won.
Yeah.
So this code shouldn't even try to resubmit the same block commit because it's already going to be producing an orphan.
But it's not trying to. What it's trying to do is so the Bitcoin reg test controller is getting like a notification that it should submit a new block commit. It says that there was a block commit in flight and it's going to be a miss. So it's going to try RBF that previous commit. And if it can't, because the UTXOs used for submitting that block commit is not high enough, then it's going to try to use some other UTXOs. But the default approach is to try to reuse the UTXO from the past and avoid that loss coming from the miss.
Oh, I see. So this is the case where your block commit is late, but you need to send a new block commit anyway. Okay. I'm sorry, I misunderstood what was happening here then. Because yeah, you would need to use different set of UTXOs in that case, because what you don't want is the miner to be stalled waiting for this late block commit to confirm, and then in doing so miss a chance to win in the next Bitcoin block.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't get that in the first read.
Yeah, no, I mean this. Yeah, it's. I don't really, I don't feel good about this PR because it's like we are adding more complexity to something that is already pretty complex. And it's also like I saw that you also had you also did a feedback concerning tests, and so this stuff is pretty like, I've been testing this manually, but automating the test, it's going to be like, it's going to take some time because we need to basically create an API for the Puppet chain stuff that I've been working on. And yeah, it's like it.
Yeah, it's really hard to automate tests on this because you need like very specific like UTXO relationships and then also Bitcoin mining behavior from those UTXOs. Yeah.
Right. I see. And that kind of justifies the existence of the Puppet chain because it lets you simulate this sort of behavior.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that ultimately we can automate this test, but it's going to take some time. And yeah, I feel like this PR is creating a lot of inefficiency in the mining. So I don't know if it, yeah, I don't know.
So I guess like an action item is I can try it out in production on the Foundations miner and see if it's at least solving the issues that we'd opened.
Yeah, that'd be great.
And that would be like a nice sanity check.
Cool. Yeah. So I have another question concerning one of your feedback. Not this one. Like, can you scroll down?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. No, not this one.
I think it was about the estimation.
Yeah, the estimation one.
Oh, I think that's further up. Is that this one here?
Right.
So I guess like the other, the other half, I guess, of my feedback is concerned about instead of trying to, like, is there a way we can derive the fee estimation from the actual serialized transaction instead of trying to estimate it? And B, no, there isn't.
So most Bitcoin wallets do not do this.
Okay.
Because it's like a really dangerous game to get into, to try and do this like iterative computation of fee estimates for a transaction.
What do you mean by iteration? Because that's what I'm doing here, right?
So I think that the iteration from a real transaction is that you need to start signing the transaction, see what the ultimate length of the transaction was, and then see whether or not your estimated guess was good.
Correct.
But that's the approach in this PR, no? So I'm creating a first estimation because we need a value for getting like a certain amount of UTXOs. So this first method is being used as a ballpark for getting some UTXOs. And then if you scroll down line 111, like
1111.
1111.
Down here, right?
Right. So we are basically building the transaction the first time with the ballpark estimation, and then we can get like the actual size, and we are like rebuilding the transaction for real.
And that's the second call down here, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I was thrown, when I originally read this, I was thrown up here. I believe it was line 800. It looked like you were trying to calculate the fees in the previous transaction of falling back to this estimation mechanism here.
Yeah, so that's just for, it's just for the UTXO, like getting some initial UTXOs.
So that part I can believe. using an estimate to try to deduce how many UTXOs you'll want. There is, however, another part down here in the code that I think maybe is worth talking about. Like when you try to do the RBF, like there exists the possibility that the total fee of the transaction with all the RBF extra fees tacked on exceeds what the sum of the UTXOs you originally picked.
Yeah.
And I was wondering if it would be possible to have like an RBF budget so that you can maybe pick more UTXOs than you strictly need when you do your first estimation, but you have that buffer now to do RBFs over the course of your tenure. So that way you don't have to worry about like sending a second transaction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sure. Yeah, that could be implemented.
Aren't most miners in most cases going to have that buffer anyways, just because of the way that we do miner chaining?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You almost always want to just be using a very large UTXO.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
You want to, but that's no guarantee that that's going to happen though.
Yeah, but I think that I don't know. I'm like very against adding any more complexity to the Bitcoin rec test controller. And
I mean,
and like
that's not controversial, so
right. And so I think to the extent possible, like if this solves like 95% of the problems, and it turns out that occasionally there's cases people run into where they can't RBF, maybe we revisit then. But
yeah, I think that in this case we are talking about the very last transaction of the chain. Like it's like the edge case.
yeah, and actually like their mining power is like really going to be degraded anyways for the next couple blocks.
right, because you have to refill at that point.
Yeah.
So maybe just don't worry about it, is what the consensus is. I mean, I'm fine either way. I just don't want people to complain to us after this PR merges that, hey, I'm assembling low fee transactions that are consistently not getting mined, and or I'm getting this Bitcoin RPC error saying that the RBF is too low. But if,
I mean, they still might, but I feel like if this PR is a strict improvement over what we have today, like I feel like we should still optimize to get it in the hands of miners.
yeah, and that's a fair point. So I can go ahead and approve this then if we feel like this solves 90% of the problems, and you can give me a chance to run it on the foundation miner.
Yeah, in fact, I would say you should, pull in everything that's in develop, maybe with this PR, so we can test the whole package.
Yeah, I can make that happen. Just need to go get Brittany to send me some more Bitcoin. Should
it be tested on testnet first to see if it behaves correctly, and then use real money?
We can do that. We can do those in parallel.
I like the idea of not using real money.
At least initially, if it looks fine with monopoly money, then you can use real money. But just a thought.
Yeah, I can do that while we're waiting for the Bitcoin to confirm. All right, I'll go ahead and clean up the comments here. This answers a lot of my questions. Taking the time, everyone.
Thanks.
Are there any other items that we want to talk about?
In terms of timeline for the release, should we? So I think that we only have 700 slots of rewards. Should we wait for the end of this 700 slots and then deploy the release, or I mean, like cut the release so that we also don't put the prepare phase in danger?
That's a good question. Yeah. Should we try to time our releases to the very beginning of the reward cycle?
Not the reward cycle, but the
Or at least like, early enough.
Unoccupied,
Jeopardize
yeah.
prepare phase.
Yeah, where I guess like where the burn slots start taking up, because like we're gonna have a lot of blocks. Wait, so there's 800. I think we're gonna have like close to 1,300 Bitcoin blocks where it's all burns before the prepare phase.
Okay. Do we have an estimate of when that's going to come to pass? The number of non-burn reward slots being depleted?
It should be 668 and 950, I think, something like that.
I'm sorry, how many blocks from now?
I mean, if it was 700, did we say it was 700 blocks worth of reward slots? Or fewer than that?
I think it's between 700 and 800.
So that's, a week or less than a week since POX kicked in, which was, I think, on Thursday night. So that should put us, I don't know, tomorrow or Wednesday at the latest.
Yeah, I think it's like approximately 150 blocks from now.
Okay, so that gives us time to test the PR out then. Any other issues?
Yeah, Jude, I was hoping we could talk about, I just added an issue for this, but it should be all the way at the top. Just kind of like refactoring some of the, some parts of the code base. In particular, I'm thinking about the Clarity VM, but I think that there's a lot of instances where this kind of refactor could be employed. Just trying to remove some of the coupling that's happening. Like the Clarity VM is pretty tightly coupled with the chain state, which means that like, a project like the REPL can't depend just on the Clarity VM. So I was curious what people thought about this kind of refactor. And I don't know, it seems like it would be beneficial, but also pretty intrusive. So.
Yeah, we'd probably want to break this into like smaller issues. I know this is like, I know that Ludo's been working on this, for example. Maybe he can speak about it.
Yeah, it's we talked about it already. It's I think the challenging part is gonna come from the fact that like these PRs are gonna be pretty invasive in terms of change, so it should happen between like, for instance, I think in 1805 you will probably end up impacting the whole code base, and yeah, it should happen between a big project, I guess.
I know that we do have a pretty big refactoring work coming up with the Stacks node itself. Maybe that's like a chance to just clean house on this. One thing that we could do that we kind of are already doing, but could do to a greater extent, is we can create more of the trait interfaces. Maybe we can create a trait for the chain state, for example, kind of like how we have the headers DB trait and the burn state DB trait. Maybe we could have one for the MARF or for the chain state itself, and we can just incrementally merge those in. And that way, like you can just swap in a different implementation if you want to run the VM outside of the system. Would that be a good approach?
We do have a trait for the backing database, actually.
Oh, for everything, including everything you would ever want to talk to from the chain state?
Not everything, but for the database.
Yeah, and so
we can figure out the delta then between what we have now with the database and what we would need to really run this outside of the Stacks node.
What were you going to say, Ludo?
And the report is basically implementing a new database with a hash map, thanks to these traits.
Yeah.
But I think that the pain is coming from the fact that you need to get rid of the MAF and all the dependencies.
I think it has much. I don't know. I think that a lot of the pain here will come from like config test, like separating this into a separate crate. Yeah. I don't know. We don't know until we try.
Yeah.
What would be like, where would you start if you were trying to work on this? Like, would you just kind of remove the VM and see what breaks, or?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. Just like remove the VM import from
Yeah.
main.rs and then
Yeah.
make it an extern crate and see what happens.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I might mess around with this a bit.
Do you want the VM to support forking in this decoupling?
I don't know. I mean, I kind of feel like for use case like the REPL, there are certain things that maybe just won't work, and that, like, that's okay. Like, yeah, but it's not really obvious to me like how much of like the stacks related functionality, I guess, should be available in something like the REPL, or if it's more just like we would just want to let people play around with Clarity as like a programming language, and you know, learn kind of the non-stacks related parts of it. So I'm not sure.
Yeah, 'cause I can see that having a non-trivial impact on how exactly you would go about separating the MARF index from the data.
Mhm.
If you do want to support forking, like the approach might be to try to make it so that the MARF can run entirely off of a hash map or something like that. If you don't need forking, then maybe you can just replace the whole of the implementations of the underlying database methods with just no ops, or
Right.
something that, or maybe you make it so that the act of advancing a block, quote unquote, never creates a fork.
Right. What would be the benefit of supporting forking?
Resilience, because the system, because your smart contracts, if you see this task of decoupling the Clarity VM as giving developers a way to test out their smart contracts, then that might be an argument in favor of making sure the VM has a notion of forks, because forking on the blockchain is a real thing. And if you have off-chain services that make certain assumptions about the degree to which forks happen, then it'd be good to have a way to mock that behavior. But if it's just to get
Got
people,
it.
on the other hand, though, if you just want to get people familiar with Clarity itself and the notion of just blocks and the notion that, you know, all transactions happen in one block and you can
Mhm.
look back in the past, then maybe you don't care at all about forks. And that makes the separation, that makes the approach of separating the VM considerably different. Like you can afford to get rid of the whole MARF, for example.
Right.
But I think in any case, like the backing database would handle any forking.
Yeah, I think one thing we would need to do, Aaron, though, is we would probably want to abstract the database itself. Like right now, I think the database does call into the MARF in order to like instantiate block tries.
Yeah, but like all of that is behind a trait. So like the MARF store just wouldn't be used at all by the REPL unless we like wanted to have a fork aware version.
Okay. So then what really needs to be done then to separate it then?
That's why I think that this is like an empirical question.
Got it.
Like, yeah. I suspect we'll have like 800 errors mostly in test code.
Fair.
Yeah, I've kind of like, I have a sense for the scale of this just because I've been messing around with updating the VM that is used in the REPL, which is just kind of copy pasted over from the main repo. And yeah, there's a lot of errors when change state's not present, for example.
Errors in compiling or errors in testing?
Compiling.
Okay.
Yeah, that's because so for the report, I wanted to limit the footprint of the library. So I wanted to get SQLite and like as many dependencies as I could. So yeah, so the cutting is a bit drastic. Yeah, I had to reorganize the different modules, so that we only rely on the util module. Yeah.
Are you gonna try to tackle this week, Reed, or like just try to investigate it?
Well, yeah, I think definitely start investigating it, but I think I'm still a bit fuzzy on like when it would be best to time this if it does wind up being something that touches various parts of the code, just so that I'm not, we don't wind up in some sort of rebase hell.
I mean, I think Aaron's right. This will be an empirical question, so maybe it's just a matter of start pulling the thread and see where it takes you.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'll start looking into it, and we can talk more about it.
Incremental, like the easier it's going to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would start with the util module actually.
Yep.
Make sure that the util module is not relying on any other module in the code base. Like the util module should be a dead end in terms of dependency.
I'm sorry, which one? Oh, the util. Yeah. Okay.
The util.
Yeah. I'll start there.
Because at this point, I think that util is relying on address and net and other things, which I think is not something we should encourage.
Yeah, that's a good point. All right, we're slightly over time. Is there anything else? Does everyone know what they're working on this week? The crickets, so that's a good sign.
All right, so the plan is that Jude is gonna, well, I guess we have to get Ludo's PR merged, and then we can start doing some testing both against Xenon, and then Jude, you can test the develop branch using the foundations miner, assuming that's all good by Brittany. And we hope to publish a release tomorrow sometime.
Okay. Sounds good. Preferably after the reward window passes.
Yeah, we can confirm the block at which that's going to happen too.
All right, cool. I'm gonna go
All
ahead
right.
and stop the recording.
Thanks all.